So this is Vlogmas. Hello and welcome back to Vlogmas. Today we're exploring again God with us, and we're going back to Psalm 139. This time I'll be reading from the Good News Bible, and I'll start with verse 7. Where could I go to escape from you? Where could I get away from your presence? If I went up to heaven, you would be there. If I lay down in the world of the dead, you would be there. If I flew away beyond the east or lived in the farthest place in the west, you would be there to lead me. You would be there to help me. I could ask the darkness to hide me or the light around me to turn into night, but even darkness is not dark for you, and the night is as bright as the day. Darkness and light are the same to you. Okay, well, and as you know, as I'm doing these Vlogmas reflections on God with us, I'm literally reading them and speaking my initial thoughts and reflections with you. So this is not a case where I am doing a great deal of study beforehand. I'm just literally picking it up, reading it, and saying what's there, what I'm hearing. I love that even darkness is not dark for you. The night is as bright as the day. And I think sometimes people are saying so often, we live in dark times or things, such a dark moment. And this reminds us that God created the light and the dark and declared them both good. They were separate, they're distinct, but they're still good. And God dwells in both places. God dwells in the midst of our ups and downs, where there's light and where there's not, where things are enshadowed and where they are fully illuminated. And so in certainty and uncertainty, a lot of times I think we use darkness because things are shadowed. It's harder to see. We use that to indicate as a negative. We use it as a synonym for evil. I think that's really unfortunate, because if we look at the creation narrative, which I always go back to, darkness is not evil. It's creation of God. It's a distinction. It helps us to experience something different. In darkness, at night we rest. In darkness, it tends to be quieter, and we can quiet down and quiet our spirits. A lot of times I hear most clearly from God at night, in those quiet moments. And so the idea that that God isn't there in those spaces where we don't see God, or we don't see the evidence of God, really isn't borne out by not only biblical narrative, but also, I think, the testimony of many, 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 many people, including my own. I believe that God is there in all circumstances, and sometimes God shows up most heavily and I feel God most palpably, I should say, in those times of uncertainty, in the shadows, coming from the shadows, where I don't know what exactly is before me or surrounding me. I know if I cling to my faith and I cling to my past experiences and my belief, I know that God is there. If I don't know anything else, if I don't feel God, it doesn't mean God isn't there. If I don't see God at work, it doesn't mean that God isn't working. It just means that my vision, for whatever reason, is obscured, and there's probably purpose behind that. Again, the darkness gives us the opportunity to rest. We need it. It's part of our life cycle. It's just the same way we need to be able to sleep. And you know, they tell you if you want to have a better night's sleep, then don't sleep with the lights on. I think about that when I fall asleep, when I'm reading or something or watching TV and the lights are on, I'm going to wake up, and that light will eventually wake me up. But if I turn off all the lights and quiet everything down, and sometimes I even put one of those, mask over my, I forget what they're called, but the mat that you put on to really take away the light. Sometimes when I travel, in particular, I'll take them because depending on where the hotel is, there might be light coming in from the outside, and so I'll put that on before I go to bed so I can really just make sure that I've darkened the experience for me, and that helps me to sleep because I need the darkness. We need rest. We need that stillness, the quietness. And in many ways, we also need the shadows. We need the uncertainty because the uncertainty draws us closer to God and allows God to be at work. Reminds us that we are not in control, reminds us that we are dependent on each other, reminds us we are dependent on God. And it also reminds us that we are not alone. And no matter who may surround us, of our family, friends, acquaintances, that may be a lot of people, that may be few, that may be hardly anyone. But if we walk with God, then we are truly never alone. And so that's really what that passage, for whatever reason, was stirring up in me today. I think that Psalm 139 is a wonderful psalm to reflect on in terms of the presence of God in our lives, but over the totality of our lives. So not just today, but all of our days. And the way in which our story, while we live in the moment, has this overarching narrative. And so that God is concerned about the entire storyline, and most concerned about the end as much as where we are in the moment. And if we can think about where we are today as a place on our journey to our tomorrows, I think that will help us to really reflect and hope and recognize the connections of our past victories, our past valleys and mountaintops, and recognize that as we continue on the journey, there may be bumps, we may go up and down, but we continue to move and we continue to strive, and that's the beauty of it. And as long as God is with us, we are on our way. And my prayer for all of us is that we understand and we feel and we know and have that blessed assurance that Jesus is mine, and that God is with us every single moment, every single day. And that during this Advent season, that you, through the abiding presence of God, will let your light shine so that all will see and glorify our God in heaven. Until I see you the next time, be blessed.